All right. Okay. Well, this is an interesting one. Um, I'm going to do a screen share. I was hoping I would be talking with Batool, but she's having trouble with her audio, as I was having trouble with my screen. But I think now I can screen share. If you are listening on Facebook, I stay on Zoom, even though I've connected to the um, Facebook Live, but I do everything that I'm going to be doing on Zoom. And I haven't figured out yet about dealing with messages on Facebook. So I'm going to do a screen share of, okay, I started making this slideshow. I started making this slideshow for today's show. And as I was doing it, I realized it would be a very beneficial thing for this work that I am intending to do, which is sending my work out to as many organizations and individuals as possible, and that this would be a really helpful way to do it. So I'm going to, since I'm not getting to talk with Batool, I'm going to share. I've got it mostly completed, so I'm going to share that now. That's my intention. Hopefully everything will go well with it. Okay, screen sharing. All right, let's start from this slide. Now, one thing about this, what I'm working on in terms of sharing my work, there's going to be an affiliate program connected with it. So that's the next part of this, plus a new website, which I've been working on. Okay, welcome to Raising Happy Kids Zoom Show, episode 43, Getting Started. Raising Happy Kids with the One Rule. During this 1-hour Zoom show, I focus on sharing tips and lessons on the one rule to raising happy kids. Each episode has at least one example of the one rule in action, demonstrating how it helps you raise a happy child. Then, when we have guests, we have Q&A and discussion. Well, today we have a guest, but I don't know if we're going to get the Q&A and discussion. When I talk about raising happy kids or creating harmony with kids, I bring up the one rule. The one rule equals agreement. Agreement equals harmony. Using the one rule means you find agreement. That's the rule. You find a solution that everyone likes. You found agreement. You found harmony. Knowing and following the one rule is all you really need to create harmony between you and your kids. In any situation where there are differences that might lead to conflict between you and your kids, use the one rule. I learned this strategy from 3-year-old children. I was teaching them a complex conflict resolution strategy, actually intended for adults, and they taught me this. So don't think you're in for a rough time. It's simple, it's easy, it's powerful and effective. It works if you use it. The one rule: start strong. You have decided that you want to have a harmonious relationship with your child. That sounds good, right? You've decided that you do not want to make your child do what they do not want to do, and you do not want to do what you do not want to do, and you are going to make this work. You have decided that you want to use the one rule to make this happen. This is going to become your new habit. You remember that when you use the one rule, you are sharing the following messages with your kids. I want us all to be happy. We are each important. Together, we can solve our problems. I believe in you. I love you. What works for me? To create this new habit, you are going to start with yourself and what you want. You decide that you are going to let how you feel about a situation determine whether you agree with it or not. If it feels good, then you can agree with it. If not, you cannot. When you are looking at situations, you can do it in your mind. You can write them out and even journal on them. You can approach each situation as it comes up and work your way through it. You can do any or all of these for any or all situations. You choose what works best for you. You look at situations with kids one by one and decide, is this situation okay with me just as it is? If yes, good. Go on to another one. If no, what would have to change, be different so that I could feel good about this? Maybe several versions of this situation would feel fine with you, maybe only one. This is your first practice as you create this new habit, following the one rule. This is a good practice no matter what age your kids are. It helps ensure a strong start and makes following the one rule so much easier. Here is something that might make following the one rule even easier. Recently, I asked myself a question. What do I want people to connect with, to feel when they're connecting with my work? The first answer was, I want them to feel good about themselves. That's when the following answer appeared, which surprised and delighted me. I want people to realize that they are already using the one rule. That understanding surprised me. And as more and more of it was revealed to me, it delighted me. Of course, people are already using the one rule. I'm not teaching them anything they don't know. I'm not teaching them anything strange to them. I'm just helping them expand their use of something they use daily without thinking about it. They use it. You use it. Every time you come to a decision inside of yourself, you're using the one rule. Most likely you had to consider several options or possibilities to reach that decision, even if it just took you a few seconds for you to agree with yourself. That is what I want. You also use the one rule whenever you agree with someone else. Together you come to a decision, an agreement. Yes, tomorrow I'll go to the auto parts store after I get my nails done. Even with your kids, you are using the one rule. You are coming to agreements. Think about it. Of course you are. You are not just thinking of it as a rule, as something required. So at times, you are not coming to an agreement. I'm here to help you think of coming to agreement as required, as a rule, as the one rule. You just expand the situations where you come to agreement until coming to agreement is just what you do and your kids do. It is the rule you and your kids follow. When you use the one rule, you are creating harmony. Your kids are creating harmony. You are becoming used to creating harmony, familiar with how good it feels to everyone involved. One point to be clear on is that even if a situation seems complicated and it seems that it is impossible to find a solution that everyone involved can feel good about, it is still possible. The important thing to remember is that there is a way for things to work so everyone involved gets to feel good. Keep that in mind. This has been my experience whenever I have made this effort. When you actually start working with your kids using the one rule, helping them follow their interests is one of the easiest ways for you to start. You can understand that, right? It is also one of the most beneficial things you can do for your kids. Why is it good for your kids to do what interests them? One primary reason is that their interest is a key to helping them become the best versions of themselves that they can become. When we do what interests us, we are very engaged and focused. Think about doing something that interests you. When we are engaged and focused, what we do and produce tends to be of much better quality than if we were not interested. Interest helps result in excellence. An even more important result of being engaged and focused is that our whole being is involved in what interests us. That is why we are engaged and focused. We are experiencing harmony. That is a good reason to allow and encourage our kids to do what they are interested in doing. I have observed children doing what really interests them, and they become peaceful, harmonious people, even if they were not before. Now, it does not mean that everything that interests our kids is going to always interest them. They may be interested for 10 minutes or 10 hours or 10 days or 10 years or even a lifetime. The point is following their interests, not the specific thing or experience that interests them. So please help your kids follow their interests. If they need your help, if they ask for your help, please help them. If for some reason you really do not want to do what they are asking you to do, that is a perfect time to use the one rule. Another reason for helping your kids follow their interests is one, that it is taking care of you too. When they are eager to do something instead of resisting doing it, you do not have to encourage them to do it or insist that they do it, let alone force them to do it. Think of how much of your time and energy could be available for you to use as you wish. I actually think it is the one rule in action, taking care of you and your kids. Okay, I am glad you're here. Now, let's stop the share. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. I've never had this situation before. So I guess since Batool, thank you. Okay. I guess what we can do is I kind of wanted to, if I were going to be here alone, I was going to continue on with something I started last week. Okay. How will this connection of harmony be balanced through one rule amongst siblings? Okay. I'm going, especially when they're young, like 2 years, 3 years. Okay. Okay. Well, I can talk about that. When they're 2 years, I would say that anybody that's working with them that is older, even if they're 3 years old, but especially their parents or their older siblings, needs to do what I was talking about in the beginning, which is they are doing the work, because the 2-year-old has very intense work that they're doing, creating their willpower, putting themselves together, really, like besides developing the willpower, besides developing their intelligence, their ability to do things in the world, and putting those things all together, that takes a lot of focus, and especially the willpower part. That's the thing that causes a lot of people trouble. They have to do this practice. They're like constantly practicing using their willpower so that it becomes something that they can do in their life. They know how to get clarity if they're helped with this willpower process, instead of having a lot of resistance. A little resistance, no big deal. That's part of what gets built in so that you can deal with this in your life. But a lot of resistance can either make the child feel like what they're going after, it's impossible, it can't be done. they get that kind of attitude. And so then there's a lack of clarity in their life because some part of them wants it, but another part doesn't believe they can have it. Or they could get stuck in kind of an I'm going to get what I want no matter what attitude, no matter what happens, kind of always in a pushing against state. So those are two not helpful states to be in. Instead of being flexible, using your willpower when and as it's appropriate, and for getting what you want done in your life. So the 2-year-old is really, really occupied with that. The willpower part is the hardest one for other people, because it means wanting things. Now, if everybody in the family knows that this is going on, that they're going to be practicing, and if they also know that there is a point, there's a tipping point, when a 2-year-old is just going after something to want. They see something up on a table and it looks interesting, and they start going over to it, and they start maybe figuring out, like, what can I do to get up high enough to reach this thing that looks interesting? Okay, so they're in that space. Now, if you can, if you don't want them, like it's your thing, it's breakable, it's whatever, but for whatever reason you don't want them to get that thing, if you can turn their attention to something else, so that they can keep practicing wanting. They haven't yet got to the stage of wanting that thing where they are determined to get it. Now that's, if they are determined to get it and something gets in the way, that's when you could end up with a tantrum because they're so frustrated. So if you can connect with them before they get into that determined, gonna do anything I can to get that thing, put my whole, invest the whole of who I am into this. If you can bring them something that they would like, or even like just start playing with them. Like there's so many ways that you could turn their attention away from this because they're not totally locked into it yet. That's the best time to interrupt their process and bring them something that will please them, so that they're glad to turn their focus of wanting, of going through the whole process of wanting, to something else, because they haven't settled on that. It just caught their attention, seemed interesting, worth pursuing, but they're not totally determined to get it. See, because perseverance is a really important part of willpower. And they have to practice that too. So, okay, so that's with the 2-year-olds. 3-year-olds, now 3-year-olds are the ones that I learned this process from. So they do not have the strong investment anymore. Like the window in them that opens up for developing the willpower, it's closed down. It's not like it's gone. It's now part of who they are, but it's not the it's not what it's not the work they have to do. Whereas when they're 2-year-olds, it's the work they have to do. It's the part of their, I call it developmental blueprint. I'm sure there are many other things to call it. Someone suggested maybe it's in our DNA. One rule and discipline. Can we say together it can support disciplines in children? Okay. What do you mean? Okay, when I think of discipline in terms of the one rule, I think of disciplining oneself to use the one rule. That's the main way I think of it at the moment. And let's see, can it support discipline in children? Yeah, if it's a rule in your family that you're going to use the one rule, and the adults use it for sure, then that's going to become the habit in the family. And the children will automatically take that on, especially if it's helped and encouraged by pointing out that we're each important. You're important, I'm important, or I'm important and you're important. Encouraging them to find solutions that are agreeable to the people involved, helping them find solutions that are agreeable to everybody involved. Then they automatically develop these skills. And that is self-discipline. And self-discipline, as far as I'm concerned, is the discipline that we need. I don't think it's especially helpful to have other people telling anybody what to do. I think we need to develop that kind of thing inside of us. It can be offered as a suggestion, because the thing is that when one person is telling another what to do, if it is not something you want to do, there's going to be resistance there. And that's not really a really clear situation, because then it kind of makes things all muddled, going back and forth about what people want, what they don't want. But developing self-discipline is very important. And the thing is that it's if the adults want certain kind of behavior, then they need to model it, for one thing. And when you're using the one rule, because with my children and the children I worked with, that was pretty much the attitude. I didn't have the term, the one rule, but as I look back over my work, what I put out for everyone, that's what I was doing. So, and the thing is that even though, okay, in those days I was using the term respect or the power of respect, because that's what I came up with in terms of understanding what I did that seemed different from what other adults were doing with children. And so my children were automatically respectful, in my terms, in those days, to everyone. They have a huge, powerful reputation amongst the adults and their peers. It just happens. It just happens automatically. And the children that I worked with at Children's House, and especially Children's House because they were with me longer than in the public schools, but even in the public schools, yeah. Everything, all the interactions were smooth. There were a couple of not smooth interactions in the 5.5 years I was in the public school, but that was due to, I would say, an improper decision on my part, not because of them. But all the other ones were smooth. Everyone got along well together. The adults, and there were a number of assistants in the class that I had. And everyone got along well. All the students, there were no conflicts except those two that I mentioned. And I could have avoided even those, but I didn't. So I guess I couldn't have. And with the children at Children's House, once this was that finding solutions that everyone agrees with, it became the norm. Then the only time there were troubles was if there were a new child that had problems at home. And they would bring those kind of attitudes and ways of dealing with people there to Children's House. But once they became engaged with something or someone, then they calmed down and joined in the finding harmonious solutions to problem situations or potential conflict situations. Okay. I saw you wrote on Facebook one rule, games, so we can categorize it in the games section. Consider it a game because in games, winners and losers are there. But here, are we in this opinion pointing out challenges as competitor? Okay, I did not, I don't have to write this. I can share it with you. Okay, I did not put it in the game category. It's interesting you brought it up, though, because I'm going to talk about that. It was something that was done by Facebook, and I have no idea why. And I certainly have not thought of it in those kind of terms, winners and losers. But I have thought of it in terms of, at one point I was considering if it could be like a game show. In that case, there would be winners and losers. And but I also thought of it in terms of the family, that but not a game in terms of competition, but a game in terms of cooperation. The game show would have had competition, but not really so much in the interactions within. Well, okay, I'll just tell you how I see this. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, I'm going to go back several years ago, before the One Rule appeared. The One Rule kind of makes this whole thing simpler, more streamlined, easier. And okay, I had been visiting my children in Northern California, and I went to a play that my 5-year-old grandson was involved in. He was the youngest child involved in this play. It was put on by the Missoula Children's Theater, and what they do is they go from place to place. They spend a week at each place that they go to, and during that time, they have auditions. They accept about 60 children, and for that week after school, they have intensive rehearsals. And I think in the play that I saw, there was like there are a few children with lines. Most of the children are involved in singing songs that go in the play. And they bring the costumes and they have everything set up. And then on the weekend, they do one or maybe two or more. I guess it depends where they are and what they set up with the community where they are. This was done at one of the community centers in our area. And so then they do performance for the families, and well, anybody can get a ticket. And so sometime after, I was thinking maybe we could do something like this and now I'm thinking of it with the One Rule as a possibility. Only instead of coming to a community with a script that everyone learns, what we come with, and now I'm thinking of it with the One Rule, what we come with is the One Rule. And we still have the same format of performances on the weekends and a week-long rehearsal schedule. It wouldn't have to be so extreme because the children would be creating their own little skits or little plays. And the idea was that the first day they would come up with the problem that they're going to deal with, or maybe even problems. And then the other times would be practicing, maybe putting together costumes. When I taught in LA at a middle school, we did a play, and the kids made out of the different papers we had involved. They made the scenes and the scenery and the costumes for their play. And so maybe something like that could be done. And what they would be doing is on the performance night, they would be, I used to think of just one of them would tell the problem situation, and then they would act out the solution. And maybe I don't know, we'll see about that. Someone suggested they act out the problem. That's a possibility too. I didn't want to emphasize the problem as much as I want to emphasize the solution. And what I was dealing with last week was that there could be a number of agreeable solutions. So maybe that could be part of it, that they have this one problem. Not everybody has the same problem. That the children involved are divided. They divide themselves into the groups of how many people for acting out these solutions. So like one problem could have several agreeable solutions, and they could act out all of them. Or they might take on several different problems and come up with solutions for each one of them. Or depending on how many children are involved, they might just have time to do one skit. And I was thinking, I think I've mentioned something like this in one of the shows, that people could do this at home. They could act out a solution for some situation that tends to bring conflict, either between the adults and the children or between the children. And they could act out the solutions. It could be, they could maybe, let's say one brother and sister might come up with one solution, and then the two sisters, they might come up with a different one, and the mom and one of the children could come up with a different one, because the thing about that is, okay, it gets into your mind that we're going to find something that works for us, and there are many possibilities. It's not just, I mean, sometimes it might be limited to one because because of the needs and wishes of whoever's involved in it, that maybe one solution will work best for those particular people. But somebody else with the same problem, they have different needs and wants and things that they like and things they don't like. So that solution might not work for them, or that solution might work for them, plus this other one, and even this other one. So anyway, this was an idea in terms of a game. I've had other thoughts in terms of a game, but it's not the game of winners and losers. It's a cooperative kind of game of finding ways that everybody gets to be the winner. Nobody has to be the loser and feel that the bad feelings that can come, because this is not just like a card game, even though we could make it into a card game. This is about what matters to you in your life. More important, that's has more effect. Okay. I know that's not exactly what you asked about, but since at least I think that's what you meant when you said that I put on Facebook one rule game. Now, if I did, it was along those lines. Not a winner-loser game, but how can we work together to make things even better? Now, when I thought of having the okay, when I thought of because I did a long time ago when I was having these thoughts about going from town to town and having these shows with the children and performing on the weekends. I thought also that maybe it could be done. We could have a TV show where kind of like, I don't know if you've heard of this, but they used to have a show here. I don't know if they still do or not. I don't have television. They used to have a show called Dancing with the Stars. And after the series, at the end of the series, the fans would vote on which couple of dancers, which they'd watched for weeks. I don't know how many weeks the show went on. Which one they would vote for. And then the ones that was where there were winners and not, yeah, I guess winners and losers. Kind of everybody was a winner in a way because you did get to be on the show. You did get your whole dancing story shown. But in terms of the prize, which I think they got to come to Las Vegas and and be in a show or something like that. I'm not really sure. I think they won money too. Anyway, so I was thinking, at one point I had a thought about this, like maybe this could be something like that, where, but I didn't go into any detail about that. Okay. That would be lovely if you can get your audio fixed, and I am really glad you're here too. Really, really glad. This is like the first time that I didn't have uh, a guest. It was a surprising kind of thing to me because I'd always been having guests, usually multiple guests. And so then I started preparing to make sure that the show could go on even if there weren't any guests. And so I've done that, but this is the first time I've had a guest and we couldn't chat. That's like, okay. But at least you can communicate on the chat roll for me. And hopefully, even though you can't talk, hopefully you can hear what I'm saying one way or another. Yeah, I'm really glad to be back again. When you can talk again, it would be good to have a meeting. I really want to share some of what's been going on during the past month or so. Yeah. Anyway, it's everything is coming together. It feels really good to me. I would like to let people know, I did last week also, let people know that I'm putting together this kind of big project. Hopefully it will have a lot of reach. So if everybody could start thinking about who they might like to send this information out to, because my latest book and training that's in as part of the book is going to be my free gift to anyone who signs up with me. So I want to be able to reach out to people with the best that I've got. So if there's anybody that you think of besides yourself that you might like to share this with, keep it in mind. I do not have the website set up yet. It's partly set up. So, okay, I think that's it for today. Well, I hope everybody has a great week. Batool, I'm so glad you're back, even though we didn't get to talk. I wish you well, and hopefully we will talk soon. Bye, everyone.